Hi again. So this is part 2 of our chapter 8 lecture narrative. Um, Types of narratives. Um, we said that to enforce our message, we can use facts and figures, statistics, examples, expert views, and narrative stories. So let's go back like half a step and say we can use an embedded narrative to enhance our message. That is a narrative that is a unit in itself within your speech. We can include a vicarious experience narrative. It is somebody else's experience, inviting the audience member to feel what other people feel through the example, and the master narrative. And we said that there is a master narrative which leads your entire message, keeps it all together, and keeps referring back to a situation that serves to clarify, to relate for your audience members. So, how can you use other supporting materials to enhance your message? You can compare your ideas with something that's relatively more familiar. Say, if you're introducing a difficult to understand piece of equipment, you can compare it to another equipment that the audience knows very well. Say, if it's from rocket science, it's a device to measure temperature, you can say it just looks like a thermometer, but it's for something else. You can create a contrast to emphasize the differences, and you can create an analogy to emphasize differences. So, how can we ethically use supporting materials? First of all, you need to mention when and where that information was created or collected, because as you know, over time things may change. Our knowledge about things changes definitely, and our views on things will change. Don't pass off opinion as a fact. You need to interpret statistics fairly. You need to avoid biased information that comes from organizations or individuals or groups of individuals who have a specific interest in mind. Do not quote sources out of context. Use examples that are connected to reality, and inform listeners of hypothetical examples if those are indeed hypothetical. Even more so with controversial ideas, because controversial ideas will need stronger support. Whether you're refuting them or supporting them, you need to use facts, statistics, factual examples, and expert testimony more rigorously in order to convince your audience that what you're telling them is actually based in reality. You can clarify very esoteric, abstract ideas with concrete examples, concrete narratives, concrete comparisons, contrasts, and analogies, as we said. And with technical material, definitely use some facts, statistics, and expert testimony. How can we enhance the emotional response from your audience members? In this case, lay testimony or real people, people from the street, people who are going to be affected by an idea or a trend or a piece of legislation or a law, those in those cases you really want the real people to speak and to share their thoughts on how everything is going to impact them. So lay testimony is good to create emotional responses among your audience. Prestige testimony would add credibility to that. Examples do the same thing. They bring up emotions, because examples are normally full of color, full of detail, full of uniqueness and specifics. And finally, narratives also do the same. If you're telling a story, you can actually enhance the emotional response by inserting details that create an emotional atmosphere. If the emotions are too high around an issue, sometimes you need to diffuse them in order to create a balanced environment to allow your audience members to judge and to take a side or to follow facts and figures that are impartial. So the use of facts in this case is a sobering factor, and statistics do the same thing. Numbers can calm down emotions, and if you judge coldly about something, the best way to do that is with numbers. Expert testimony also gives credibility to your call to forget emotions and to go with the facts, to put everything aside and just follow the objective information in order to make the best decision or the best judgment about a piece of information that you're presenting to your audience. If you're talking about a topic that is rather distant, unusual, and sometimes even irrelevant to your audience, sometimes it shouldn't be completely irrelevant, but it can be distant. For example, if you're speaking with a lay audience about space exploration, everybody loves that and it is relevant to humanity, but how do you bring it home? You can use examples and you can use narratives, from space explorers, examples from their lives, examples from their journeys. So if the topic is really obscure or lofty or not your everyday encounter, then examples and narratives make those topics closer. They bring them closer to home. With novel ideas, unusual ideas, use ample comparisons, contrasts, and analogies. Again, if it's a piece of equipment on a spaceship, compare it to something that people already know. Contrast it with something that they would think is similar, but show the differences. How is it working? For example, some piece of equipment that does not use oxygen, it is the same as, let's say, a grill, but it does not need oxygen to work. And analogies, again, we said it's like a grill. In our linguistic use, we said we use metaphors, analogies, similes. If you look at the chart in the last slide of the lecture about the use of language, the power of language, you'll see how linguistic tricks, linguistic methods can enhance your message with analogies, among other tools. So, how do you decide what supportive information to use to enhance the meaning of your speech, to enhance the delivery of your speech? You should choose the most impressive supporting material. Go for the best. You should choose more memorable supporting materials that are not hard to grasp, but also easy to remember. Choose credible supporting materials. Don't bring up speculation. Don't bring up unchecked facts or rumors or hypotheses. Just the most credible, something that is already proven. And finally, choose supporting material that will lead people to act, that would invite people to act, because that way it's more relevant.